Hi guys, welcome back to Epic Aswani. I know it's been a while. It's been 3 months since my last video, but today I'm back with another awesome video. And it has taken a while because I was doing research. I was trying to understand what kind of content will benefit you most. So today I'm back here with I would say one of the most requested videos. A lot of you guys have been asking me to do videos on dissertations and thesis proposals, and today I am here to start a series, okay, that will take you through how to handle dissertations, thesis and proposals. And if you are new on the platform, be sure to subscribe so that you can be part of the bandwagon, and if you're a regular, kudos, thank you for always supporting. And by the way, if you need any assistance with your dissertations, any consultation with your proposals, with your thesis, my contact are all over the screen. Be sure to reach out and let us discuss your specific project and see how we can handle it. And I insist, only use the contacts I've provided on my screen to reach to me, to avoid being duped. So once again, welcome to today's session. We'll be talking about dissertations, and I want us to start by looking at chapter 2, which is the literature review. And there's a reason why I'm saying we start with chapter 2, because I recommend that before you start working on your project, you should first of all complete the literature review for the reasons we will see during the tutorial. So welcome, and let's get started. So the first thing that we need to get out of the way is just understanding what a literature review means. And for that, I have looked up for some good definitions. In this case, I'm citing McCombs 2023, who says that a literature review is a survey of scholarly sources on a specific topic. It provides an overview of current knowledge, allowing you to identify relevant theories, methods, and gaps in the existing research that you can later apply to your paper. In this case, that could be a thesis or a dissertation, or even proposals. And by the way, a proposal is basically a thesis or a dissertation that you are yet to conduct, hence proposing. You're proposing to conduct a particular study, and therefore a thesis is basically a proposal rather is basically a thesis or a dissertation that you are yet to conduct. In this case, you don't have chapter 4, you don't have the results because you have not conducted the study. So basically, in a proposal, we expect you to have the introductory chapter, the literature review, and chapter 3, which is the methodology, written in future tense because you have not yet conducted the study. A thesis is basically same as a dissertation. You can actually use the terms interchangeably, it's fine. Only that thesis in most cases refer to people who are doing their master's program, and dissertation is most commonly used for those who are undertaking their doctorate programs, like a PhD. So again, I have another definition. On the literature review. So it's basically a survey of books, scholarly articles, and any other source relevant to a particular issue, area of research or theory, which will help you to provide description, a summary, critical evaluation of works that are related to whatever you want to investigate. So literature reviews are designed to give an overview of sources you have explored while researching a particular topic, and demonstrate to your readers how your research fits within a larger field of study. So of course, I've cited Paré, and I will be sure to leave all the references in the description of this video so that you can go and read more and understand. The other thing I wanted also to talk about is the purpose of a literature review. Literature review can provide a general overview of a body of research within which you're not familiar. It can reveal what has already been done, so while you don't, so that you don't waste time reinventing the wheel, which basically means so that it can help you know what has already been done, so that you don't waste time, okay, to try to redo it. The purpose of conducting a study is to present new information. So you don't want to study something that has already been studied. So the only way you can know something has been studied is by, first of all, conducting a literature review, so that you know the extent to what the other researchers have done, because you don't want to redo a study that has already been done. You must present something new. So only a literature review can help you understand what has been done previously, and of course now can give you ideas on what you can include in your research. Again, a literature review can help you determine where there are problems or flaws in existing research. So when you are doing the review, one of the goals is to understand the flaws, the issues, the gaps with the existing research. Okay. Of course, again, it can enable you to place your research in a larger context to show what new conclusions might result from your research. So that is why you need to do the literature review first, because it can really help you understand a lot of things. You can actually understand a lot of things in terms of the methodology to use. You can understand your idea better. You can even understand which analysis methods to use. For example, after going through a couple of studies on a particular subject area, you can understand which methodologies the previous authors have used. Did they use surveys? Did they use systematic reviews? Did they do meta-analysis? Did they use quantitative or qualitative studies? So from that, now you can also see the direction your research should take. Again, you can also have a good understanding of the data analysis methods. Have they used statistical analysis? Did they do thematic reviews? Did they do this or that other analysis methods? So once you have looked at various other studies, it is easy now to know which kind of analysis you are expected to use in your study. Of course, again, according to Paré and Kitsiou 2017, a literature review provides a theoretical foundation for the proposed study. It also substantiates the presence of research problem, justify the research as one that contributes something new, or validates the methods and approaches for the proposed studies. So again, you need to conduct a study only when it is contributing something new to the research field. And you can only do that after you understand what has already been done, okay? Because you should not just do a study for the sake of doing a study. It must be bringing something new. So it must be contributing to something new to the accumulated knowledge on that topic, and that is why we are saying conducting a literature review helps you achieve that. Now, I also want to talk about types of literature reviews. We have narrative reviews, and I'm now going to read out for you. I can just leave it. You can pause at any moment to read the definitions of these types of reviews. And again, I have included a lot of references. You can always go and learn more. We also have descriptive or mapping reviews. We also have scoping reviews. We also have systematic reviews. This is my favorite, by the way, because a systematic review is very systematic. It's actually one of the reviews that is very scientific, because there's a lot of careful selection of studies that must meet a particular criteria. You must be specific with the terms you use, the search keywords you use. You must be specific with the databases you use, so that if somebody else was to do the same thing, they will most likely come across the same studies and the same conclusions. So a systematic review is very scientific, because you have to be very specific with the search keywords. You have to be very specific with how you came up with those keywords. You have to be very specific with which databases you used. And of course, you also need to include any screening processes you undertook to come to the conclusion for the studies you've included. So a systematic review is actually a form of secondary research, in which case you are basically examining various studies on a single topic, okay? And then you can also include a meta-analysis, in which case you are, extracting the data from the individual studies and doing further analysis of them. That will comprise a meta-analysis. It's also a form of a literature review. Now, what are the steps and the processes involved in conducting a systematic review? A literature review. I like using these 6 steps proposed by Templier and Paré, 2015. Step 1, you obviously need to formulate the research questions and objectives. Again, you can start with a research question and some objectives, but after conducting the literature review, you can always go back and decide, okay, this research question has been explored extensively in the existing literature, so it doesn't make sense for me to do it again. So you can always go back to your research questions and modify them, but you need to start somewhere. So you need to start with some basic research questions and objectives. So from there you can now decide which databases to locate, to use, which search keywords to use, how will I decide which studies to include, which ones to exclude, and then of course you need to assess the quality of every source you find. The quality may be related to the authors. Are the authors credible? Is it recent enough? Are the methods used, scientific? And then of course you need to extract the data and now finalize with the data analysis, which in this case is basically writing now the content of the literature review. Now, common approaches for organizing a literature review. Basically, how do you organize a literature review? Literature review, again, it must be very systematic. So you can organize it chronologically, which is basically starting with older literature and moving away through to the most current literature in a given topic. Let's say you start with studies published in 1980s, and then if you move to studies 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, and then you finalize in 2020s, right? But that is most appropriate for topics that have been talked about for a long time and have changed throughout history. So things that have been changing over time. And then of course when you're talking about them, you can decide to organize the literature review chronologically so that we see how the things have been changing through periods, okay? You can also decide to organize it broad to specific, which means you start with a general issue, and then you narrow down, to specific issues until you reach to the specific literature that are now targeting your specific research. You can also decide to organize it thematically. This is my favorite. Basically coming up with themes, and then for every theme or idea, you examine various research or various studies on the same. So thematically is also one of the frameworks I prefer to use because I focus on the themes that are related to my research questions, right? And then of course you can also do it geographically. This basically means you organize it based on geographical dimensions, such as starting with the worldwide literature and then narrowing it down to continental literature, regional literature, and then finalizing it with local literature. And again, I've left there a bunch of references. You can always read and understand more about that. Some of the tips I always give for completing a literature review section. Number 1, a literature review should concisely summarize the findings or claims from prior research. Okay, you should also make sure you reach a conclusion about how accurate and complete that knowledge is. It's not just about presenting summaries, but you need to be critical about it. You need to also, make some judgment about, is this knowledge complete? Is it knowledge consistent? Is this knowledge accurate? Is this knowledge right? Is there something missing? And you need to be mentioning them even as you write. It's not just about giving a summary, but also being very evaluative in terms of critiquing the existing knowledge, right? Now, most people, when I give them to do a literature review, what they present is actually something called annotated bibliography. Now, There's a huge difference between doing annotated bibliographies and completing a literature review, and most people confuse the two. Annotated bibliography is different, as you shall see, right? So in contrast to things like annotated bibliographies, a literature review involve a lot of synthesis. There's a lot of synthesis, a lot of evaluations, all right? So it's important not to simply write a summary list of each individual work, but instead focus on the knowledge as a whole. Given this number of articles, this number of studies, what is the main knowledge from all these? So again, a literature review is not an annotated bibliography, all right? In annotated bibliography, the writer presents a summary and a critical evaluation of each article or scholarly source one by one, with little or no connection made between the various articles or resources. This is very different when you are doing a literature review, because in a literature review, there's a lot of synthesizing information. There's a lot of synthesis. You're trying to synthesize information and compare information, right? Another tip that I also want to leave you with is that you need to avoid jumping ideas. When you are completing a literature review, jumping ideas is basically where you introduce one idea and then jump on to the next idea quickly, all right? That is jumping ideas. You present something and then very quickly you are on to the next idea. That is what you are calling jumping ideas. What you should do is to spend some time on each theme, on each idea, and present a balanced analysis, focusing on different sources and studies. Don't just mention something and give 2 or 3 references and move on. You need to actually spend some time on it, evaluate it from different angles. And I've given you a good example. For instance, if one source or one study says Aswani is tall, you should not just settle on that. You need to examine other studies that either support the idea that Aswani is tall, offer a different angle, oppose the idea, or otherwise discuss Aswani's height from different perspectives altogether. And then finally, based on what you have, then you make an informed judgment on whether Aswani is actually tall. Okay? So maybe you are just talking about, you are only referring to a study that is saying Aswani is tall, but in fact, Aswani is actually not tall. Maybe the fact is Aswani is just taller among many short people, so that makes him look very tall, when in fact is of average height. So if you just focus on that one study alone, or just focus on studies that are supporting the idea that Aswani is tall, you are missing the point in a literature review. You need to explore all the range of data or information available on Aswani's height. Include both that are agreeing, those that are giving a different opinion, those are representing different perspectives altogether, and finally, make a determination, make an informed decision based on what you have seen. Is the knowledge on Aswani's height enough? Is there sufficient information to conclusively decide whether Aswani is tall? If the information presented is not enough, you need to state so that based on the existing literature, there's no clarity about Aswani's height. And that is a good point, because it can easily form part of your research gaps. Okay? But if you can conclusively decide and determine that Aswani is tall, then you need to conclude and ensure that you make that your final decision that Aswani is actually tall. That is the whole point of conducting a literature review. Still on tips, literature review is not an essay and should never sound like one. Most people confuse literature reviews and essays. They write a literature review as an essay. Remember, one of the key aspects of an essay basically, you're trying to prove a point. And in most cases, you want to focus on only the studies that support that point. That is essays. But in a literature review, you're trying to focus on all the range of available information, including the information that is contrary to what you're trying to prove. Because you want to present knowledge in a balanced manner, in an unbiased way, right? So a literature review is a review or a discussion of currently published material on a particular topic. It attempts to synthesize and evaluate the material information according to the research questions, theses, or central themes. In other words, instead of supporting an argument or simply making a list of summarized research, a literature review synthesizes and evaluates the ideas of others on the given topic. This allows your readers to know what is being said about your given topic, and of course how these sources compare with one another. So there's a lot of comparison, all right, between the sources, right? So it's important you understand that a literature review is not an essay. Okay, so again, I've given you some definitions what it means to summarize, because I've been talking about a lot of summarize. Okay, so summarize meaning basically means to recap, okay, the important information of the source. Okay, synthesize now means to reorganize, reshuffle, reinterpret and the information, and it involves finding connections and relationships, right? So when you're synthesizing research, it shows an awareness of how the research from different articles, different studies, compare. All right. Now, finally, to evaluate, it means to assess the worth of something. When you're evaluating something, you're trying to look at the authors. Are they credible enough? Are they trustworthy? The methods, are the methods scientifically sound, or they are, they have some issues here and there. So that is basically to evaluate. Now, I've given here a very nice discussion about the difference between essays and literature reviews, and I'm not going to read it out for you. You can just pause and read, but the main message here is that when you're writing an essay, you're basically trying to prove a point, and there's high likelihood that you'll only focus on the materials that help you prove the point. When you're talking about literature reviews, you're not trying to prove a point, you're trying to present all the knowledge available, and then of course commenting on this knowledge. Is it sufficient? Is it conclusive? Is it credible? Is it trustworthy? Is it complete? So that is the purpose of a literature review versus the essays. So that is all I had. Of course, I'll paste these references in the description box, and you can always go and learn more about that. So that is all we had, and once again, if you have a project you're working on, a dissertation, a thesis, or proposal, and you want like an expert eye, you want some consultation about how you can approach it, how the literature review should look like, please reach out. My numbers are on the screen. You can leave me an email, you can contact me on WhatsApp, you can also call me directly. We can then discuss your paper, and then I can give you my expert knowledge on the best way to approach it, including which method to use. Maybe you're wondering, should I use primary research? Should I use secondary research? Should I use questionnaires? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I follow this procedure? Should I deviate this other way? We can look at your project, we can discuss your topic, and then we can create a nice outline of how you can handle it. Even when you haven't decided on the topic yet, but you want to, you're supposed to like complete a thesis, dissertation, or even a proposal. How about you give me a call or send me an email, and then we look at your degree program or your master's program, whatever doctorate program, and then we come up with a nice topic that is researchable. Of course, like I've said, when you're doing a literature review, not really a literature review, but when you're doing a study, it's important you ensure you're presenting something new. And that, of course, means even before we decide on the topic, we need to test whether that topic is actually researchable. So those are some of the things we'll be discussing. So be sure to reach out. Of course, again, please subscribe so that you can be getting more content about conducting dissertations or thesis review proposals. So in the next video, we will be looking at chapter 1, which in most cases is basically the introduction. We have the statement of the problem, the background, the research questions, research objectives, probably justifications. I know the format might vary from one institution to the other. Every institution will typically have their own, a workbook of some sort where they say these are the details you must have, these are the chapters you need to have. But we're just looking at it from a generic perspective and just determining and deciding, okay, chapter 1s typically contain these details, chapter 2 will typically have these details, chapter 3 will typically contain this and that. So we're just looking at it from a general perspective. But if you want a specific advice or consultation on your specific project, then of course do reach out. So until next time, stay safe, chill, and continue subscribing. Thank you. Peace.